Ladies and gentlemen, in life and in leadership, one of the greatest tests of character comes not when everything is going well, but when you are being doubted, dismissed, or outright disrespected. The natural, almost instinctive response to being undermined is to fight back, to raise your voice, to prove your worth through confrontation. But there is a smarter, more powerful, and ultimately more effective way to rise above those moments, to lead with calm, not conflict. Calm is not weakness, it's not passivity. In fact, calm is one of the strongest postures a human being can take. It says, I know who I am, I know what I stand for, and I do not need to lower myself to your level to prove anything. This is especially important when someone is trying to provoke you, because those who undermine you are often not looking for a real conversation, they're looking for control. They want to shake your confidence, disturb your clarity, and drag you into a place where emotions cloud judgment. When you stay calm, you deny them that power. Think about it. In any tense situation, the person who remains calm is the one who is truly in control. Calmness creates space to think, space to breathe, space to choose your response instead of reacting on autopilot. It's in that space that smart decisions are made. Leading with calm doesn't mean ignoring disrespect or letting it slide. It means choosing a response that keeps your integrity intact while still addressing the issue with confidence and clarity. One of the most disarming things you can do when someone tries to undermine you is to remain unshaken. Imagine someone questions your capability in a meeting in front of others. Instead of getting defensive or shutting down, you respond with calm composure. That's an interesting perspective. Here's what I've found to be true in my experience. That kind of response doesn't just maintain your credibility, it strengthens it. Because now you're not only offering value, you're doing it under pressure. That's powerful. There's a reason why great leaders are admired not for how loud they speak, but for how steady they remain when everything else feels shaky. When you lead with calm, you lead with presence. People notice. They feel it. And even those who doubted you may start to reconsider, not because you outshouted them, but because you outclassed them. It also sends a message to everyone watching. And make no mistake, people are always watching. In every team, every organization, and even every social setting, others take cues from how you handle pressure. When you choose calm over conflict, you're not just responding to one person, you're modeling behavior for everyone. You show that it's possible to be strong without being combative, and that strength can show up in stillness, not just in action. Of course, this doesn't mean that calm comes naturally. It takes practice. It takes emotional discipline. Sometimes it takes walking away from a conversation for a moment, taking a deep breath, and coming back with clarity. Sometimes it means choosing not to respond at all, not because you don't have an answer, but because the situation doesn't deserve one. Not every battle is worth fighting, especially when winning that battle costs you your peace. But here's the real power. When you commit to leading with calm, you actually start building long-term respect, not just from your critics, but from everyone around you. People trust those who are steady. They listen more carefully to those who don't speak from anger. And over time, your calm becomes your credibility. Your restraint becomes your strength. So when you are undermined, when someone tries to shake your ground, remember this: your reaction sets the tone, not theirs. You don't have to meet their energy. You don't have to prove anything in that moment. You only need to hold your center. Let your calm be your message. Let it say, you may try to rattle me, but I am not here to play your game. I am here to lead. Calmness is not the absence of emotion. It's the ability to channel emotion into clarity. And clarity, especially in the face of conflict, is what earns you real, lasting respect. Not just from those who doubt you, but from those who quietly admire how you handle being doubted. In a world full of noise and tension, the calm voice is the one that stands out. Be that voice. Be that presence. And you won't just demand respect, you'll inspire it. In moments when you're being underestimated or overlooked, there is often a strong urge to explain yourself, to talk about what you've done, what you're capable of, or what others have failed to see in you. And while communication matters, there is a deeper, more persuasive force that speaks louder than any defense or argument you could make: the quality of your work. Letting your work speak before your words isn't about staying silent. It's about knowing that credibility is not built through noise, it's built through consistency, excellence, and impact. When people try to undermine you, what they're really doing is questioning your value. And nothing dismantles doubt more effectively than results. There's something powerful about quietly delivering on promises. While others may talk posture or self-promote, the person who simply does the work, and does it well, earns a kind of respect that words alone can't command. That's because talk can be cheap, but performance is proof. And in environments where people are quick to judge or dismiss, The best long-term strategy is to let your track record do the talking. Consider someone who constantly defends themselves, who tries to explain their potential every time they're challenged. Now consider someone who listens, acknowledges, and then goes out and exceeds expectations without making a scene. The second person will always earn more trust, more attention, and more opportunities over time. Not because they spoke more, but because they delivered more. This approach also removes unnecessary friction. When you let your work lead, you're not arguing for a seat at the table, you're earning it. You're not demanding recognition, you're making it undeniable. And that subtle shift in energy changes how people view you. They stop seeing you as someone trying to prove themselves and start seeing you as someone they underestimated. Letting your work speak is also an act of patience and confidence. It means you trust the process. You believe that results will reveal the truth. And even if it takes time, you're willing to let your consistency win the long game. That's hard to do when emotions are high, especially if others are getting credit or attention you feel you deserve. But the truth is, loudness is temporary. Results endure. You don't need to broadcast your worth when your impact is visible. Think about a great artist, athlete, or leader. The most respected among them often don't talk about how good they are. They just show up and let their work set the standard. That presence, that quiet power, speaks volumes. It doesn't need to shout. It's felt. This doesn't mean you should be invisible or never speak up. There's a time for advocating, for sharing your story, for making sure your contributions are recognized. But those moments are far more effective when they're backed by a history of value, adding work. Your words land differently when your results already speak for you. People listen more closely, they take you more seriously. Because now, you're not just someone with an opinion, you're someone with evidence. And if you're just starting out or still climbing, this principle is even more important. You may not have status, position, or a long list of achievements yet, but you do have control over how you show up, the quality of what you do, and the attitude you bring. That's your leverage. And over time, that's what builds your reputation. Letting your work speak is also a kind of quiet rebellion. When someone doubts you, they expect you to react emotionally. They expect you to push back, to argue, or to retreat. But when you double down on excellence, when you channel that energy into producing something undeniably good, you take the high ground, you flip the script, you rise above the noise not by engaging with it, but by outpacing it. And here's the beautiful part: when your work speaks first, your words later carry weight. You'll no longer need to raise your voice to be heard. People will ask for your opinion. They'll want your insight, because you'll have proven that you bring substance, not just sound. So the next time someone undermines you, don't waste too much time explaining who you are. Show them. Let your actions rise above their assumptions. Let your consistency speak to your character. Let your work, day by day, piece by piece, tell the story that words never fully can. When someone undermines you, the most natural response is to get defensive. You want to explain, justify, maybe even push back. But defensiveness rarely changes minds. It only reinforces the power of the person who doubts you. What if, instead of defending yourself, you shifted the energy of the conversation entirely? What if, instead of answering their doubt, you asked a question that made them think? This is the power of asking instead of reacting. Asking powerful questions changes the dynamic. It moves you from the back foot to the front foot. Rather than trying to prove your value, you invite reflection. You challenge assumptions, not with confrontation, but with curiosity. It's not about being passive. It's about being strategic. Asking the right question shows composure, intelligence, and emotional strength. For example, if someone questions your capability in a meeting, instead of replying with, "I've done this before," or "You don't understand my background," try asking, "What concerns you most about the direction I'm taking?" Or, "What outcome would you like to see and how can we align to achieve it?" Now, instead of defending your value, you're steering the conversation toward clarity, collaboration, and results. You're turning tension into progress. Asking questions doesn't mean you don't know the answer. In fact, it often means you're confident enough to stay open and listen, to engage rather than resist. And in doing so, you place yourself in a position of strength, because people don't expect composure when they challenge you. They expect emotion. When you meet pressure with poise, you interrupt the script they had in mind. But not all questions are powerful. The key is to ask with purpose. Don't ask to trap, embarrass, or retaliate. Ask to invite insight, to clarify expectations, or to expose assumptions. A question like, "What would success look like to you in this case?" does more to build respect than a defensive statement ever could. It says, "I'm here to understand, to deliver, and to grow, not to argue." Another benefit of asking instead of answering is that it creates a space for accountability. When someone undermines you, they often do it carelessly, with a throwaway comment, a vague critique, or an assumption. By asking them to elaborate, you ask them to own their statement. If someone says, "I don't think you're ready for this," and you calmly respond with, "Can you help me understand what you think is missing?" Now they're on the spot, not you. And that shift forces them to either clarify or reconsider. This tactic also serves you personally. When you ask instead of react, you give yourself time to think, time to process, time to choose the most effective next step. You're not just responding to defend your ego, you're responding to move forward with intention. That's how professionals operate. That's how leaders think. And let's not forget, when you ask good questions, you learn. You might uncover gaps you didn't see. You might realize there's a legitimate concern buried under the disrespect. You don't have to accept the way someone delivered it, but by being open enough to ask and listen, you can grow stronger, sharper, and more aware. There's also a subtle psychological effect at play here. When you ask someone a thoughtful question in response to their critique, they see you as someone capable of critical thinking, someone mature, someone in control. Even if they don't admit it, they begin to respect you, not because you argued your worth, but because you showed it through the way you engaged. This is especially effective in environments where respect is earned through performance and presence, not volume. When people see that you can face criticism without crumbling or attacking, they begin to trust you. They may not say it out loud, but they notice. And over time, that kind of quiet strength speaks louder than any defensive speech ever could. So the next time someone doubts you, pause, breathe, and ask. Ask to understand. Ask to challenge gently. Ask to lead the conversation rather than be led by it. Because every time you ask a powerful question, you're not just managing conflict, you're demonstrating leadership. And that's how real respect is earned. Remember, you don't need to prove yourself to every voice that questions you. But when you can turn doubt into dialogue, you begin to turn resistance into recognition, not by raising your voice, but by raising the level of the conversation. There comes a moment in every person's journey when they're challenged, not just in skill or strategy, but in dignity. Someone questions your competence, your authority, your right to be in the room. In those moments, the urge to fight fire with fire is powerful. You want to push back, assert yourself, maybe even dominate the conversation to prove you're not someone to be dismissed. But true respect, the kind that lasts, isn't earned through aggression. It's earned by standing your ground with calm, unwavering grace. Grace is often misunderstood as softness or passivity. In reality, it's one of the most powerful and disciplined responses you can have. It means holding your position without losing your temper. It means staying firm without getting rude. It's the strength to assert your value without attacking someone else's. Grace is not about avoiding conflict. It's about navigating it with maturity, composure, and purpose. When someone undermines you, they are often testing your boundaries. They want to see how far they can push before you break or back down. If you respond with aggression, you confirm their expectations. You give them the reaction they were hoping for. But when you stay grounded, when you respond with confidence rather than force, you show them something they didn't expect: control. And that control is magnetic. It shifts the power in the room. Standing your ground with grace starts internally. It requires you to know your worth before anyone else affirms it. You must believe in your place at the table, even when others question it. This doesn't mean you're blind to feedback or above critique. It means you don't allow disrespect to define your response. Your sense of self must come from within, not from the noise around you. Externally, it means choosing your words carefully and your posture intentionally. Imagine someone publicly questions your judgment in a meeting. An aggressive reply might shut them down, but it also makes you look reactive. A graceful response might sound like, "I understand your concern, here's why I made that choice, and I'm happy to walk through the reasoning with you." That one sentence communicates respect, clarity, and strength, all without raising your voice. Grace also allows you to separate emotion from reaction. When you stand your ground with grace, you refuse to let anger speak for you. You let your values guide the conversation. And in doing so, you rise above the behavior of those who try to pull you down. This isn't just about managing perception. It's about preserving your integrity. It's important to recognize that grace is not silence. You don't have to endure disrespect quietly or pretend everything is okay. Grace involves boundaries. It's okay to say, "That comment felt inappropriate, and I'd appreciate a more respectful tone." That's not aggression, that's clarity. It's drawing a line with confidence, not with combat. And more often than not, people will respond to that line with more awareness. Standing your ground with grace also means picking your battles wisely. Not every slight deserves a reaction. Some things are better left alone, especially when responding would only create more chaos than clarity. Knowing when to speak and when to stay silent is a skill, and a powerful one. It allows you to conserve your energy for the moments that truly matter. Over time, this approach builds a reputation. People begin to associate your name with strength and self-respect, not because you're the loudest, but because you carry yourself with poise under pressure. You become known as someone who cannot be rattled or disrespected easily, not because you fight every time, but because you choose your responses with wisdom and calm authority. And the truth is, grace is contagious. When you model it, others begin to mirror it. You elevate the tone of the spaces you're in. Even those who once doubted you begin to adjust their behavior, not because you forced them to, but because you showed them how power and kindness can coexist. So, when the moment comes, and it will, when someone questions you, challenges you, or underestimates you, don't meet them with hostility. Don't let their energy decide your tone. Instead, plant your feet, lift your chin, and let your calm conviction speak for you. Stand your ground, not to prove you're tough, but to prove you're unshakable. Because real leadership isn't about overpowering others. It's about mastering yourself. And when you do that with grace, even your critics begin to take notice, not because you demanded respect, but because you embodied it. Criticism is inevitable. Whether it's delivered harshly or hidden behind politeness, if you're doing anything meaningful, someone will have something to say about it. And when that criticism comes from someone who's already undermining you, it cuts deeper. It feels personal, unjust, and at times defeating. But what separates those who rise from those who retreat isn't whether they're criticized, it's how they respond to it. The key is not to fight back or shrink down. It's to take that criticism and quietly build confidence from it. Quiet confidence doesn't come from proving people wrong loudly. It comes from growing stronger without making a show of it. It's the kind of self-assurance that doesn't need to be announced because it radiates through your presence, your actions, and your results. And believe it or not, criticism, even unfair criticism, can be the fuel that builds that kind of presence. The first step is learning to listen without absorbing. That means hearing what's being said without letting it define you. Not all criticism deserves your attention, but some of it, even when delivered poorly, contains insight. Instead of reacting emotionally, ask yourself, is there a lesson here, a blind spot, an area I can improve not for them but for me? When you shift from defensiveness to curiosity, you reclaim power. You're no longer a victim of someone else's judgment. You're a leader of your own development. There's a quiet kind of strength in not needing to respond to every critique, in choosing to process rather than perform. You don't need to defend yourself every time someone misunderstands you. Some people are determined to see you through their own distorted lens, and no explanation will change that. But when you grow quietly, when you use the criticism as a mirror rather than a weapon, you begin to separate your identity from their opinion. That's when confidence becomes internal, and internal confidence is unshakable. People who constantly seek validation or chase approval burn out quickly. Their confidence is built on external reinforcement, which means it can be taken away just as easily as it was given. Quiet confidence, on the other hand, is built in the moments no one sees. The moments where you decide to keep going, to keep refining, to keep showing up, not to silence others, but to strengthen yourself. Every time someone questions your capability and you choose to learn instead of lash out, you grow. Every time you reflect instead of retaliate, you mature. Over time, that maturity turns into wisdom, and that wisdom becomes your foundation. Critics may still speak, but they no longer shake you, because you've used their noise to deepen your roots. This doesn't mean you ignore everything. Sometimes, feedback, even painful feedback, is the very thing that elevates you. But there's a difference between listening to grow and bending to please. You get to decide which criticism serves your growth and which belongs in the trash. That discernment is a key part of building confidence. And it's something you gain through practice, through self-awareness, and through the willingness to stay steady in uncomfortable moments. Confidence born from criticism is also more sustainable. It's not based on a single win or moment of applause. It's based on resilience, the ability to hear hard things, to sit with them, to improve quietly, and to emerge more capable than before. That process becomes your anchor. It becomes a quiet inner voice that reminds you, I faced worse than this and I didn't fold, I grew. And eventually something shifts. You start noticing how little power your critics actually hold. You stop feeling the need to prove yourself to them because you've already proven something to yourself. That's the turning point. That's when you begin to lead, not from insecurity, but from stability, not from fear of being wrong, but from the confidence that you're always becoming better. The people who once undermined you may not change, but your relationship to their words will. Their criticism will become background noise. Not because you've tuned it out, but because you've grown past it. You've learned how to extract value from it and leave the rest behind. And that wisdom becomes part of your presence. People feel it when you walk into the room. They see it in how you carry yourself, not loud, not proud, just steady. So when the voices rise, let your ego be still. Let your mind stay open. Let the criticism come. And then let your growth answer back, not in anger, not in argument, but in quiet, unshakable confidence. There's a certain strength and endurance in standing tall despite the doubts, in responding to disrespect with calm, in proving your value again and again. But there's another kind of strength, one that is just as powerful, if not more so. It's the strength to walk away. To know without anger or bitterness that some battles are not worth fighting and some people are not worth convincing. When you've done the work, shown the results, carried yourself with dignity, and someone still refuses to see your worth, the most courageous, self-respecting move you can make is to protect your peace and walk away. This isn't giving up, it's growing up. It's choosing not to stay in spaces where your energy is constantly drained, your ideas are dismissed, or your presence is undervalued. Respect is not something you should have to beg for. If you've earned it through character and contribution, and someone still withholds it, then the issue is not with your value, it's with their vision. Walking away doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to come with a loud exit or a final word. It can be quiet, intentional, and dignified. It's the decision to no longer shrink yourself to fit into places that weren't built to support you. It's the realization that peace, your mental, emotional, and spiritual peace, is worth more than proving a point to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Often, we stay in places too long because we believe leaving is a sign of failure. We think, if I walk away, they'll think I wasn't strong enough. But strength isn't measured by how long you tolerate mistreatment. Strength is measured by how well you know your limits and how willing you are to honor them. There is nothing noble about staying in environments that slowly erode your self-worth. Knowing when to walk away is a form of self-leadership. It requires deep awareness. You must be able to recognize the difference between a challenge that grows you and a cycle that drains you. Sometimes, people who undermine you don't do it once. They do it again and again in subtle and overt ways, no matter how well you perform. You can't fix people who are committed to minimizing others to feel superior. What you can do is choose where you invest your energy. And make no mistake, your energy is valuable. You don't owe it to people who constantly make you question yourself. You don't owe it to workplaces, relationships, or environments that make you feel like you have to work twice as hard just to be seen as equal. You owe it to yourself to be in places that recognize your presence as an asset, not a threat. Walking away is not always about physical departure. Sometimes it's emotional detachment. It's choosing not to internalize someone's projection. It's disengaging from their drama. It's learning to say, I see what's happening here, and I refuse to carry it. That kind of inner boundary is a powerful form of walking away. It's a quiet refusal to participate in someone else's insecurity. What happens when you walk away is profound. You create space for people who do see you, space for opportunities aligned with your values, space for growth that isn't stifled by constant resistance. You give yourself permission to stop trying to earn the respect of those who've already decided they won't give it. And in that space, something shifts inside you. You start to breathe again. You remember your worth. You realize how much energy you were spending trying to win a battle that wasn't yours to fight. Sometimes, the greatest form of self-respect is knowing that walking away isn't loss, it's liberation. You're not abandoning something good. You're releasing something that no longer serves your growth. And that act in itself is deeply empowering. You don't have to stay anywhere you're not respected. No matter how much you've invested, your peace is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the foundation for everything else, your creativity, your confidence, your ability to serve and lead. Protect it with the same intensity you protect your goals. And the most beautiful part, when you walk away with grace, you don't just protect your peace. You inspire others to do the same. You become an example of quiet strength. Not the kind that fights to be heard, but the kind that walks away because it no longer needs to be. So if you ever find yourself surrounded by those who undermine you, even after you've shown up, spoken up, and stayed grounded, give yourself permission to take the final step. Protect your peace, not with bitterness, not with resentment, but with the calm, clear certainty that you deserve more than just tolerance. You deserve to be respected. And if that respect doesn't exist where you are, then it's time to walk toward a place where it does.